Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Chris. I hope you're doing great. As you know, this 56mm f1.2 was an amazing lens. It was a little bit falling behind because it was released in 2014, and you know, in 8 years, a lot of things have changed. A lot of lenses have been, revised and modified and improved, and they now came out with the newer version of this 56 f1.2, rightfully so. Now, you might be wondering, is it worth the upgrade, or should I go with this one instead of the other one? Which one is best? And that's why I'm making this video. Now, I want to make it in a way that it is real life usage and not just specs and technical data, because as a photographer, my purpose here is to help you improve your photography and really see how it's going to look in real life with examples, with samples, and so forth. So the first thing here that I want to mention is the fact that the minimum focusing distance is now 50 centimeters versus 70 in the previous model. Now, some of you might think that 20 centimeters is not a huge difference, but to me it is, because you don't have to go backwards to shoot something that's closer to you, the face of the model, or the bride getting ready, or the hands of the bride and the jewelry and the ring, but you can get a little closer without having to use a macro lens, obviously. That is very cool, and it also helps for the depth of field. In terms of focusing speed, now, I've been shooting, by the way, on an X-T3. However, most of you guys out there use the sensor of the X-T3 or the X-T4 or the X-Pro 3 and so on. And I'm not impressed with the focusing speed and the autofocus. I mean, they implemented a DC motor versus a linear motor, which they use for most of the lenses. Now, I don't know if it's because of the size, the price, the weight. I don't know exactly why they use the DC motor, but it is great for photography. I think it's fantastic. It's snappy, it works great, it's awesome, but for video, I would not use it. And I shot a couple samples here just to show you side by side how the autofocus works. That is on an X-T3, so obviously technology improved a little bit, but it tells you here how it looks. There is a technology that was implemented into this new lens that was borrowed from the Fujinon Cine lenses, and that has the purpose of reducing the chromatic and the spherical aberration on your lens. That is also very cool for the newer 40 megapixel sensor. It's very important, by the way, and it reduces the light bleeds within the highlights. Now, in terms of weight, size, and all that, that's something I want to talk about because I think it is important as a photographer. It is now 445 grams heavy, which is 40 grams heavier than the previous model. Not a huge difference, but you can still feel it. And in terms of length, it is 7 millimeters longer than the previous model. So it is going to be a little bit longer. Not a lot, but it still makes a little difference. And in terms of filter thread, we are now at 67 versus 62 for the previous model. So you can see that it basically fits inside the new version. That is not a huge difference, but I just want to talk about the 50mm f1 for a second. When it came out, I remember I was super excited and pumped, and when I saw it in real life, I thought, oh my god, this is big. This reminds me of the Canon L lenses. It is not like the Canon L lenses. They're much bigger. But if you compare Fuji to Fuji, that 50mm is just an overkill because you're getting a third of a stop of light and aperture more than the 56 f1.2. Now, this is a little bigger, a little heftier, a little fatter, I would call it. It is not excessive, but it is bigger. So just consider that. Do you really need those improvements of autofocus and weather resistance, which I'm going to talk about in a moment? It has a better aperture ring. The clicks are more defined. And what I mean by that is when you put it now at f1.2 or f1.4, it's not going to move by mistake. Versus before, it was very soft and a bit mushy between those two apertures, when now you really can lock it in place and it doesn't move. They also added the auto aperture button here, so it gets locked. That is cool. That is a feature that we saw in all the recent announced lenses. That was taken from the GF series, by the way. And I think it is great if you want to shoot in auto aperture. I never do that, but if it's something that's good for you, it is not going to move. The weather resistance, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because it's the same as any other lens from Fuji, but what it does basically is that it seals your body and your lens together, and it avoids having humidity and or dust going into your sensor, into your lens, and creating problems basically. I don't need that in Switzerland because where I shoot, I don't have those elements, but if you're someone that needs that lives in a country or goes to a place or for a project and so forth, that is a very good thing to have. In terms of image quality, and that is basically what we want to talk about here, I find it very nice. The bokeh is amazing. Overall, image quality is fantastic. I don't think the original one was that bad. In fact, I don't find them that different at all. I think they're very, very, very similar. I find the corners in the original one a little bit softer than the new one. The new one's a little bit sharper, but overall, I find it very nice. Now let's get into samples. The first thing I want to show you here is the difference of aperture, the bokeh of the two lenses side by side. I shot this in my studio with the controlled lighting. I use flashes. It's all like very well set up so that you get pretty much the exact same light in all the shots. So there is a consistency. And again, the purpose here is to show you how the depth of field compares with the two. Here you go. For the next series, I took a bunch of photos of a friend here in my studio. Again, this was open at f5.6 because that's how I normally shoot with the flashes, just to show you a little bit the feel and the quality of the photos if you shoot in studio. I did shoot a bunch of samples outdoor, and I didn't do just portrait because yes, this is an 85mm equivalent for full frame, 84mm I think. But the purpose of this lens can be also other things. You don't necessarily have to shoot portrait. Obviously, being able to get such a compression of the background, such an aperture, wide aperture, and so forth is best for portrait. But you can also use it for nature, you can use it for landscape, you can use it just to have fun. And here are a bunch of photos that show you that. So overall, I think it is a good lens. I think it works great. Those little improvements, weather resistance, aperture ring, focusing, they're great improvements. And I think they make it a great little lens. And it's going to become the best lens in the lineup, for me at least. I don't know if I'm going to change from my original 56 f1.2 because those improvements are not necessarily something that I was highly looking for. But if you were, then here they are. There, so that sums up my review of this new 56mm f1.2. Hopefully I'll be able to make a new review with the X-H2 or the X-T5 if it's out by the time. And if you have any question left, write it down in the comment section below. I will answer as fast as possible. Like always, don't forget to subscribe, and I see you very soon. Take care. Cheers.